6 months ago, the Sunrise Movement burst onto the scene by occupying the office of House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, incoming House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. She wasn't even elected to that position yet, along with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. A lot has changed in that 6 months, and they marked the occasion here at the end of their month-long road tour by calling for the next big action that the climate movement and Sunrise Movement are going to take. And that is, they're going to Detroit for the second Democratic debate, and they're calling for a mass mobilization. They're calling for people to get into the streets and demand that Democrats support a climate change debate, that all Democrats running for president refuse fossil fuel money. The third demand is that the Green New Deal become a day one priority for all 2020 candidates, meaning that forget who controls the House or the Senate. The second that you come into the White House, you're going to start rolling out policy at a regulatory level, at an administrative level, that starts moving us toward a Green New Deal, because we have 12 years to turn this around. When Sunrise Movement occupied Nancy Pelosi's office, time is ticking down because we're at 11 and a half years now. Soon it's going to be 11, then 10, then 9. And so it needs to start moving, and it can't necessarily wait for the political stars to all align perfectly. We talked to Varshini Prakash, who is one of the co-founders of Sunrise Movement, about what Sunrise is up to next.
We just ended our whirlwind tour with this event in DC. Now we are bringing young people across the nation to get involved in our presidential election and make it clear that if our politicians want the energy, votes, passion of young people, they need to back a Green New Deal and swear off of oil and gas money. So we will be showing up in force at the second Democratic debates in Detroit. We will be creating our own debate stage where we will give a deadline to these politicians to sign the No Fossil Fuel Money Pledge and make the Green New Deal a day one priority if they're going to become president.
We talked with Brianna Gunn Wright, who wrote the policy that underlies the Green New Deal, and asked her, what can a president do on day one?
I think there's a few things. I think the first, and I think Senator Warren has talked about this and more folks too, a moratorium on drilling on public lands. The fact that we're an oil producing country and folks are out here saying, that's how we're going to support our economy, that is an issue, and that's a strong way to send a signal. A lot of people have talked about joining the Paris Accord, which we know isn't enough, but there was a way to possibly join that with additional targets, or to say we're going to go this far beyond the Paris Accord targets because we know we've lost this much time. I think that would be a powerful thing.
I spoke with Naomi Klein and asked her, as I asked Varshini Prakash, how do you think about the extinction level event that we're living through as it relates to the climate crisis?
We have overlapping ecological crises that are all linked to human overconsumption. And climate is a huge piece of it, but we're also dealing with toxins in the ocean. We're dealing with agricultural runoff, creating dead zones in the ocean. We're also just dealing with sprawl and the loss of habitat. So all of this is contributing to this incredibly alarming situation where we're being told by leading climate experts through the United Nations that 1 million species on the planet are at risk of extinction. So it's related to climate change in a couple of ways. One part of one of the stressors is a changing climate. And that's part of what's driving extinction. But there's a flip side of it, which is that in thinking about how we respond to the climate crisis, we have an opportunity to rehabilitate habitat and actually solve the extinction crisis at the same time, or make a dent in it at any rate, because we're not solving anything at this point. So what that means is that we have to get to net zero emissions, meaning we actually have to get to less than zero emissions if we are going to avoid catastrophic warming. So that means that we need to get our emissions down to zero, but then we need to do something else, which is we need to draw carbon out of the atmosphere. One of the things we heard about tonight is that we are now at 415 parts per million of carbon in the atmosphere, which is absolutely unprecedented. That has never happened in the time that humans have been on the planet. So we need to draw carbon down. Now there's a couple of ways that you can do that. One way is to mine a whole bunch of metal and build a whole bunch of carbon-sucking machines. I happen to think that's kind of a crazy idea, because it's certainly going to have a terrible impact on extinction. It's going to take a lot of land, it's going to take a lot of resources. But we actually know how to suck carbon out of the air. There's a perfect carbon sucking machine, and it's called trees. We suck carbon out of the air through vegetation, through plant life. So there's a way that we can solve two problems at once by doing habitat restoration and drawing carbon out of the atmosphere.
The event here tonight at Howard University's Crampton Auditorium marked the end of a roughly 30-day road trip that the Sunrise Movement has been on, and it featured speakers like Naomi Klein, Brianna Gunn Wright, Senator Bernie Sanders, all of them opening for the star of the night, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. It was Ocasio-Cortez's decision to join the Sunrise Movement activists along with Justice Democrats who occupied Nancy Pelosi's office back in November that catalyzed the climate movement.